A record string of heat before the start of the fall season. Now, here comes the drop.
Hot and dry today, but big changes are coming as a storm system develops over Colorado.
Struggling to find permanent housing is a problem nationwide, but one city has found a path forward.
Houston knows what we already know in Denver, that housing works.
Denver and Aurora taking successful solutions to replicate here in the metro.
We have to look at what's going to be sustainable, what's going to make the greatest difference with our homeless population.
Questions remain about a man shot and killed by Clear County deputies.
I'm not dangerous. I will keep my hands completely visible.
Tonight, a community gathering to remember Christian Glass and sending a message to those responsible.
We have seen an escalation in police use of force. They came here to this county for a visit, and they never went home.
Let's begin with a live look over Denver tonight. Clear conditions right now before a much cooler and much wetter Wednesday.
Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson now to usher in the official start of sweater weather, which, some of us might be looking forward to. Now, Mike, we are finishing up that streak of 90-degree days, aren't we?
Yes, today 92 degrees. It was the 10th day of 90 or hotter in the month of September 2022, and that's an all-time record. But things are about to change. It's still warm out there. It's 79 degrees, but there's a change coming as rain moves into the state from the west and a cold front pushes in from the north and east, and the result is going to be a very different picture for tomorrow. There's already a fair amount of rain that's coming into the central part of the mountains right now. This is what it looked like up at Beaver Creek a couple of hours ago. And so our headlines are a big cool down coming, rain for the next 2 days, heavy rain for the mountains, and much cooler temperatures. Autumn begins officially on Thursday at 7:03 p.m., but it's going to feel like fall starting tomorrow.
Thank you, Mike. It's been nearly a week since officials from the Denver Metro traveled to Houston to explore solutions to the homeless crisis. The city has earned national attention for its success.
Now that the dust has settled a bit, I checked in with leaders to see what they learned and if they are going to implement anything they took away here in the Metro. It's a problem plaguing the Denver Metro, homeless camp after homeless camp. And while leaders in the Metro have been trying different ways to curb the crisis, they felt like they could do more. That's why they traveled to Houston, Texas, to see how the fourth largest city in the nation has seen massive success with tackling the issue there. The Coalition for the Homeless of Houston-Harris County's Anna Rausch says they used to have the sixth highest homeless population in the nation, but now
we've had a 63% decrease in homelessness since 2011.
Leaders from Aurora, Denver, Adams, and Arapahoe counties headed to the Lone Star State to see what they could learn, coming back with new insight.
And they did it through a housing first strategy that says that housing is so basic to the human condition that if you solve for housing, then other things will fall into place.
Things will fall into place like addiction treatment programs, access to job training, and finding a job. A strategy the city and county of Denver praises.
What we need to do is replicate that with bigger scale.
Stressing that Mayor Michael Hancock's $43 million budget for next year will make a big difference in tackling the homelessness crisis moving forward.
$43 million. For housing resources and housing navigation. This is really going to be critical infrastructure for us to help offer housing to people who are currently experiencing homelessness, not only shelter or only services, but housing.
Aurora City Council member Juan Marciano, who also went on the trip, praises Houston's ability to collaborate as part of its success too.
The regional collaboration and the consolidation of services through the Coalition for the Homeless of Houston and Harris County.
Stressing that collaboration will not only be more effective in the long run, but save money.
So identify an existing nonprofit that would be a good holder to basically be like the one-stop shop, if you will. Will then be able to, redirect those resources from duplication towards providing what we're missing.
Like permanent supportive housing and serve everyone in need. The city and county of Denver wants to point out it will likely take longer for the Metro to see Houston's success as quickly because of how expensive it is to live here. Aurora's mayor says they are heading to San Antonio next month, and after that trip, they will really be able to reevaluate next steps in the housing crisis.
Going in depth now, let's take a look at the data when it comes to Houston's approach to solving homelessness. Since 2011, the city has decreased homelessness by 63%. During that same period of time, they also found permanent homes for 25,000 people.
We do housing, and then we do housing first, which is a model of providing housing to individuals that puts a roof over their head, someplace where they're safe, someplace where they have food and a bed to sleep in. And then once they feel safe, then you wrap the services around them. You can, if they need mental health support, if they need substance use recovery.
Before 2011, Houston had the 6th highest homeless population in the country. Now it's not even in the top 10.
An update to a story we brought you last night. Aurora City lawmakers have agreed to move forward with a ban preventing Aurora paramedics from using new chemical restraints. Denver 7 Investigates broke this story last week, the concern stemming from the death of Elijah McClain in 2019 when Aurora paramedics injected him with too much ketamine. 3 police officers and 2 Aurora fire paramedics are now facing criminal charges in his death. The city has since banned ketamine, but last month, Aurora's medical director introduced a new rapid-acting drug called droperidol.
We need to think about, just because everybody else does something doesn't mean it's appropriate for us. Other cities don't have firefighters on trial for murder. We do in Aurora.
The ordinance is moving forward to a vote next week, but with stipulations for the ban over 2 years, not 3. Aurora paramedics currently use one other chemical restraint that will not be affected by the ban.
Tonight, people are gathering in Idaho Springs for a vigil to remember Christian Glass and call for accountability in law enforcement.
Glass was shot and killed by a Clear Creek deputy in June after he called 911 for vehicle assistance. He told 911 dispatchers that he had 2 knives for his work as an amateur geologist.
A press release from the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Department alleged Glass tried to attack an officer, but attorneys for Glass's family say the body camera footage tells a much different story.
Denver 7's Rob Harris is at that vigil tonight where Glass's family and community members are demanding accountability from police. Rob.
Yeah, and the vigil, Amy, just wrapped up within the last half hour or so, I'd say. But I counted personally at least 80 people that came out here to Idaho Springs tonight for that vigil. Among those people, like you said, were Christian's mom and sisters and people from the Idaho Springs communities and surrounding communities. I talked to many of them, and there was one theme that seemed to emerge over and over again. That was essentially disbelief that their small community is now represented in these headlines internationally for this officer-involved shooting. Now, according to organizers, there were 2 main goals for the event tonight. The first was to remember and honor Christian Glass and to show support for his family. The second goal was to demand accountability for the officers who responded the night of Christian's death and to call for reforms within their departments going forward.
And it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. But it did, and we have to learn to live with our loss. And I just think, pray that it doesn't, changes will happen and it doesn't happen to somebody else.
The failure of the responding officers in this situation is horrific. And what is worse is these officers are still on duty today.
Now, the sheriff's deputy who shot and killed Christian Glass was placed on administrative leave for a few days following that shooting, but he is now back on the job. And that's something that organizers of the vigil tonight say is unacceptable. And they say that this vigil tonight is just one step in their plans to demand accountability from their law enforcement. Live in Idaho Springs, I'm Rob Harris, Denver 7.
Rob, thank you. A 7-year-old boy narrowly avoids being shot after someone fired several rounds in multiple homes in Centennial. Residents reported hearing 10 shots and a car taking off of Flanders Street Sunday night, according to the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office. Now, this is how close one of those bullets came. The dad of a 7-year-old boy shared this photo of a computer chair that his son was sitting in playing video games and where the shot grazed that chair.
Fear, sadness. We couldn't believe it. Physical pain. It was so scary to realize exactly how close it had come.
The Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office is still looking for the shooter or shooters. They're asking for home surveillance or doorbell camera video from Sunday night from people in the area.
The man wanted in connection to the death of a Weld County deputy is in jail on a $500,000 bond. Norberto Garcia Gonzalez made his first court appearance this afternoon after being taken into custody last night. The Weld County Sheriff says there is evidence he was drunk when he crashed into Deputy Alexis Hynutz on Sunday. She was riding a motorcycle on her way to work. Garcia Gonzalez was taken into custody using her handcuffs.
The man accused of killing Arvada police officer Dylan Vakoff was charged in a Jefferson County courtroom this morning. Sonny Almanza is facing 11 counts, including first-degree murder of a peace officer. Officer Vakoff was shot and killed while responding to a call on September 11th. Almanza's lawyers will decide by Friday whether to fight to release the affidavit that gives more details about what happened.
Marshall fire victims facing yet another setback.
We were hoping to break ground next month, and I need to look for another builder.
Contact Denver 7 investigates a construction company abruptly shutting down and leaving families without notice.
We're all now struggling and trying to figure out where to go next. It's scary.
Illegal poachers encroaching on private property.
We've caught them on our cameras.
One Douglas County woman says she's afraid for wildlife and her safety.
It's a key habitat and mating ground for the elk here